The Ask Weldon Show, episode 272. Today we're going to talk about mindfulness in Fortnite, how to stop tensing up during clutch moments, and how to get buy-in for your teammates to practice mindfulness, as well as some other interesting questions. Let's jump into the show. All right, no big announcements today. I will get to the small announcements after the first question. So the first one here is a little bit of deviation from the title. It's about Rocket League versus traditional sports from Sprightly Squirrel.
Hi Weldon, Sprightly Squirrel here. I believe that Rocket League is the most similar esport to a traditional sport. I was wondering if you agree or disagree with that opinion. I was also wondering if you think that impacts the mentality, training, or overall strategy of the game. I'd also love to hear any thoughts you have on Rocket League as a game in general. Thanks.
From what I have seen of Rocket League training tactics, I think what you say is actually pretty accurate. I think that Rocket League has the most, I would say, simplistic style of consistent gameplay, meaning that it's not a game where League of Legends, where they're adding new champions and adding new patches and they have like a large player base and they're constantly updating the game. Like Rocket League is just Rocket League, right? It's just soccer with cars, and it's just player versus player, soccer with cars. And there are many, many different ways of training the game that are drill based, and that has opened up an avenue to which, like, one of the primary ways of playing is to drill and then to run skirmishes. So practices look a lot more like traditional sports practices. The thing is that the system, the motor system you're training for Rocket League and the motor system you're training for League of Legends or for World of Warcraft Arena or for CSGO are all very similar. They're not that different. It's just that Rocket League has been coded and structured culturally in the game in a way that it's much more akin to traditional sport, or closer to traditional sport, and how it is that you're able to train. And the way that the game is kind of like static, not completely like static like soccer is, right? Or football, but static compared to League of Legends, not CSGO. CSGO is pretty static. Valorant, and other games like that, which are like iterating and improving and changing and adding maps and constantly like trying to appease their entertainment player base and their player base, as well as their pro watching and pro sphere. So yeah, I would agree with that. I think it changes. It doesn't change anything inherently. Like, people who train League of Legends also want to be able to train like Rocket League. It's just that Rocket League allows the creations of drills, and that doesn't happen in the other sports, in the other esports. And also, I would say, because the competition is central to the game, there's a lot more, like the arena is the aspect of the game that is interesting, the actual, 2v2 and 3v3 matches. So unlike League of Legends, where there are tens of millions, maybe even 100 million people that play it that aren't interested in the esport or don't even care about the esport side. They're just concerned with the entertainment side of the game. And the fact that they're playing against other people is interesting and an element of the game, but it's not core to it. Then in Rocket League, the transition from playing as a player in that arena into watching it is really natural, kind of like watching football and playing football. Okay, so yeah, good question, interesting insight. Not really relevant essentially to how we train, because in esport we train however it is that the game lets us train. And as far as mindset, I think mindset's really similar. Everybody's trying to be the best and to find the most innovative ways of training themselves in these games. I think that the mindset should shift drastically when you get to non-motor based games like Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, chess, these kind of games that are that don't have a component of the brain that you need to train through drilling. And once you get to that, then there's a big shift in how it is that you tackle practice. All right, let's jump into the second question. Introducing mindfulness to a Fortnite team.
Hi, I'm a team manager and an aspiring performance coach for a professional Fortnite team. My players are doing really well online, but they struggle when on offline tournaments. I want to introduce them to mindfulness and meditation exercises that we both can do together and that they can do on their own. How would you go for it?
All right, so getting buy-in for essentially for things that are not related necessarily to clicking buttons is a process of winning over trust and introducing things that make people successful. So the way that I've always done it is I do something that is very, very low maintenance and low effort, but gives high results. And then once the person does that, gets the results, they're very excited about the next thing that we talk about. And there's an aspect of like convincing, and it helps to have an ally within the team. So if you put your toolkit together, essentially you want to make sure you have allies in the team, that you work one-on-one with players to get them excited about this as a topic. So when you bring it to the group, that you have people who are there to reinforce you. You want to make sure that you have done things that are lower effort but give high success, such as helping people find mindful moments within the game. Like you could do some things that don't involve sitting meditation training just in a living room, but rather during the match you can say like, okay, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder, or I'm going to remind you in the comms to take a deep breath, and I want you to center yourself, take a deep breath, and then become aware of your surroundings. Like get your head out of the game, and get your eyes out of those, those things they put on horses in the parade, the blinders, like get your eyes off the blinders, get the blinders off so you can actually see what's going on. You can start to introduce in-game, in-sport mindfulness moments, and you can do centering exercises where people center themselves for 5-10 seconds before they load in, silence, close your eyes, take 5 deep breaths, like visualize the mistakes that they usually make that kill them, and then go. And once you get over those little hurdles where you're introducing these ideas and they have a small amount of effort but a large amount of impact for the effort that they involve, then you can start using the equity that you're buying, that you're earning. You can cash it back in for a bigger ask to your players, a bigger request, such as sit down and meditate for 5 minutes. Although you don't probably want to call it meditation. Although nowadays it's not a big deal. That is a problem in traditional sports, using that word, because players are averse to it. But I think that most esport athletes grew up in a completely different realm than traditional sports athletes from 20 years ago. So there we go. I hope that helps. You need to expand your toolkit essentially and figure out what works for the players that you have is the true answer. Announcements. Just the basic ones. In order to submit a question to the show, make sure that you go to anchor.fm/Weldon Green, which is the place where you'll find the podcast feed on every single major platform from Spotify to Apple Podcasts, and also where you can submit audio messages for the show. You can do it on your phone. You should do it right now. You can do it on the web. You can do that right now. If you come up with a question, don't write it down somewhere and forget. Just go straight to anchor.fm/Weldon Green, and you'll find the show right there. And then secondly, the show is now broadcast live on Twitch, twitch.tv/MyGamesWeldon. Make sure to follow the channel and get notifications so that you know when I go live. I essentially go live into the show right away. Then after the show, we jump over to World of Warcraft. The show is being recorded right now on the Twitch stream. And then after the Twitch stream, I jump into chat. We answer some more in-depth questions, talk more about the topics that were in the show, dialogue a little bit. And then we are working on World of Warcraft, prepping for raids and such. And the final announcement is the Mind Games app, which is in beta right now. You can check that out, mindgames.gg. There's a lot of technical issues, but we're getting through them all. And the current video course, which is the one that I've been selling for 5 years, is embedded within the app. So once you get access to the app, even if functions of the app don't necessarily work smoothly yet, you can always go to the video course and kind of work through that in the same way that you would have 6 months ago if you were just diving into the video course previous to the app being launched. So make sure to check that out. Get your beta tag by signing up now. And let's jump into the question number 3.
Hey Weldon, it's James here. I was wondering if you had any tips to help me stop tensing up during pressure moments in games. So whenever I find myself in certain situations where the stakes are high, or it's like a clutch moment, I find myself tensing up. and I was wondering if you knew a way to help me stop tensing up in those moments. And even like, I feel like in general life, sometimes I just find myself or I catch myself with my shoulders tensed up randomly. I was wondering if you could help me get out of that habit. Thank you.
Yeah, realizing that you carry tension in your body and then releasing it is a really important step in terms of mind-muscle connection, mind-body connection, and your mind-body relationship. So I would say that there is no level of elite performance that doesn't involve a very strong connection between your mind and your body and an awareness of where you're carrying tension and which muscles are active at which times. Whether or not it's a chicken and egg problem, like whether or not that came first and then those people were able to develop a higher level of skill because of that, or whether they were developed a high level of skill and that was included in the skill kit, is not really that well known yet, in that neither of those things is predictive enough statistically in research to say which comes first. But regardless, working on your mind-body connection is something that benefits not just your sport, if you're playing a traditional sport, but also your video game if you're playing an esport, and also just general stress in life and tension in life and the way that you move around space. So how do you build that spatial awareness and that muscular tension awareness? I think that it starts with a lot of mindfulness training. This is the easiest way, okay? You can also just do sports your whole life and hope it just develops naturally, or just pay attention to your body and do it that way. But the most systematic way is to do mindfulness and try to, and yoga, by the way, where when you are inhaling, you are increasing muscular tension in a particular part of your body, and then when you are exhaling, you are decreasing it, and you're doing it in gradations. And by that, I mean, let's try it right now. Okay, so sit up, upright, feet on the floor, hands kind of like flat in your lap or on the arms of your chair. If your elbows rest on your arm things and they're too high, then you have to have them dropped down, okay? And your hands are either flat in your lap, palms facing up, or they're flat down, palms on your legs, and your legs feet should be flat on the floor, knees at 90-degree angle or more, and free your back up. Don't lean back in the chair. Okay, so let's go ahead and close your eyes, and I want you to essentially, what should we do? Let's strengthen our spine. So as you inhale, I want you to make sure that your spine is all the way up. And then as you exhale, I want you to release tension in all muscles not related to holding your spine all the way up. So you're going to have a bunch of muscles around your spine and your back that are tense incidentally because you just tensed up your spine. And I want you to like relax those while keeping the muscles that hold up the scaffolding and the infrastructure of your spine moderately tense enough to keep you upright. Okay, so every time you inhale, you lengthen and you increase your height. And you like float up off of your butt essentially. And then as you exhale, you release all tension except that tension which holds up your spine and your shoulders on your back, your shoulder blades on your back. Okay, so now let's do the gradation thing. So as you breathe in, I want you to tense up your hamstrings and your quads. So if your hands are on your legs, you should feel your quads and your hamstrings tensing up all the way to 100%. And then as you exhale, I want you to release them. Okay, this includes your knees, by the way, because your quads wrap around the front of your knees here. So inhale all the way to 100%, and exhale all the way to 0% tension in your legs and in your butt. Okay, now I want you to, as you're inhaling, I want you to be going up 30% each section. So you're going to inhale through 3 pulses, like 3 in and 3 out. And at each pulse of 1/3, I want you to be 1/3 of the way to 100% tense. So you want to be 33%, 66%, 100%, then downwards 66%, 33%, and 0. Okay? Okay, I want you to feel that granular control over the tension of your muscle. Okay? Now I want you to go 25%. Okay, so you're going to do 4 inhales. And at the middle one, you're going to be 50%. Okay, it's a little more complicated than the 1/3, all right? You're going to go 25, 50, 75, 100. And you should be so tense here with your hamstrings that they're literally lifting you up, a couple inches on your chair. That's what happens when you tense up your hamstring and your butt, clench them. All right, and then why don't you do, 10%? So you're kind of pulsing in your brain as you're inhaling, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, so I'll try to make the pulse sound through the mic. And each pulse of inhale, you're going 10% more muscle tension, okay? And eventually, the last one I want you to do is continuous. So there's a very smooth, continuous increasing of muscle tension and releasing. You can do the same with every single muscle in the body. And when you're doing yoga, in fact, that's what you're doing. You're holding a pose. When you inhale, you're increasing the tension in all of the muscles that maintain your posture in that pose, right? And then when you're exhaling, you're decreasing the tension in every single external muscle, as well as the ones that hold that pose, up to the point where you are you're surrendering into the pose more than you are like yinning yourself into the pose, like pushing yourself into the pose or strengthening yourself into the pose. So you can do this through sitting and experimenting with this. You can do this through finding a YouTube video of yoga and then just adding this element of muscular tension to all 5 breaths. So you hold a pose for 5 breaths, and every single inhale and exhale, you're strengthening and then releasing the muscles, and you will build a mind-muscle connection that is more granular than just, oh, I'm holding tension here or not. Because tension in your shoulders isn't something that you can't have. Like if you didn't have tenseness in your back and your shoulders, you would be a puddle, right? You would just be flopped on the couch. You wouldn't be an upright human. So there is a muscle tension which holds your spine up, and there is a muscle tension which holds your shoulder blades on your back. But then there's like the muscle around it is also being activated, and that's bad. Right, you don't need the 3 muscles right here to hold your shoulder blade in place. You only need 1, but because your mind is not finessed enough at muscular control in your shoulder blades, you're tensing all 3 accidentally. Okay, and you're just innervating that whole area instead of just innervating the 1 muscle. So you want to be able to like control the release of muscle tension and control the activation of correct postural muscle tension, and that comes through movement. It comes through focused training, focused sport, focused movement. You can do it when you're walking, when you're rising. You can do this like stand up from the chair right now, just naturally, just quick stand up. Okay. But now I want you to stand up mindfully. So here I want you to like put your feet flat on the ground, and I want you to, as you're pushing, feel the muscles you're activating in your triceps to push. Okay. You're shortening them. And then I want you to feel the like activation of your leg muscles and the shifting of your feet, the weight on your feet, till you get centered over your body, and then you're pushing up and you're activating these muscles. And you can do it incredibly strongly, like a robot or some sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger style movement where it looks like very robotic and intentional, and you can feel every portion of that. I'll give you a simple example of how this works out. Every single time I bend down in the house, I don't just bend over and pick something up. Normally speaking, anytime I'm bending down and pick something up, I'm just going to do a quick exercise, okay? So I make sure that my feet are at the correct angle. I don't want my toes, I know that my squat angle. So the first thing you got to do is figure out what your natural hip squat angle is, but I know mine. So I set my feet in the natural squat angle, and then I do a quick run up my spine so that my spine is articulated. Anyway, it's straight and neutral. And then I go ahead and I like keep my center of gravity over my hips, and I go straight down, or over my feet, and I go straight down, and I squat down, and I very powerfully maintain my balance and posture in that pose. And I grab the cloth that was on the floor, right? And I pick it up as if I were picking up a 500-pound weight, but not exerting the amount of force that I would for a 500-pound weight, but in terms of technique, in terms of the activation of posture muscles. And then I'm done. And I do that quick mental exercise every time I go down and open the bottom drawer in a shelf or something like that. And it helps me to keep that mind-muscle connection, even though I'm not necessarily doing yoga every day and things like that. So this connection you're talking about and the tension release that you want comes from a skill that you build within your mind and your muscles in the connection that they have. So that's how I recommend to train it. Okay, let's jump into the last question of the show. I hope that was helpful and enlightening. Thank you for calling in your question. Whoops.
Hello, Weldon.
Hello.
When I meditate, sometimes I have tasks that come to my mind, and those tasks are very important to do for my life. They are not important for my gaming, but they are important for my life, which means that during the meditation, I don't want to forget those tasks. So I don't know what I should do about those thoughts, about those important tasks. Should I pause the meditation to write them down, or should I push them away? But they are very important. So what should I do about those thoughts that are very important? Thank you.
This is a great question. I have struggled with this question mightily many times. The solution I've come to is, obviously, if it's something important, you want to take a note, you should jot it down. Most of the times I'm in the sauna or something and I can't really jot it down. It also helps to get it out of your mind. Like when you journal, you're kind of like dumping stuff out, and it helps you just forget about it so that you can focus on what you want to. But the real answer is that you can also just try not to get fixated on these ideas and trust that they'll come again. A lot of times when I'm doing mindfulness, I have this release of general like cognition about whatever it is that's bothering me right in the moment, and I get into a more broad thinking about, okay, oh yeah, these things I was going to do in my life and over the last month or over the last 3 months, or like, oh, my to-do list for this week that I've been putting aside because I'm thinking about these very minor, narrow focuses. And so I know what you mean, that like when you do mindfulness, all of a sudden all these things come rushing into your brain. You're like, oh yeah, there's all these things I was going to do and all these things I need to do, and I want to take notes of them so I can do them all after this. And I want you to just find a way to let that cacophony die down. I don't want you to push them away, and I don't want you to feel like you have to satisfy them or be worried that you're going to forget about them later. I just want you to just notice them and keep doing mindfulness. And eventually that cacophony of voices and to-do list will die away. And if they're really bothering you on a specific day and you're having a bad day, yeah, write them down as notes, get them out of your head, go back to your mindfulness. But generally speaking, you just want to see these as the nitpicky voices of your life, kind of like rising up in the silence that you have purchased for yourself, and they're vying for your attention now that you have stopped doing the thing that was distracting you from them. But they're distracting you now from this, which is the thing that you're doing, which is mindfulness. So, do your best to essentially just let them fade into silence as you progress through the focus on the breath. All right, this has been a very mindful episode, actually. We covered a lot of stuff about mindfulness, aside from the Rocket League question, which is a great introduction into how it is that we see different kinds of esports. And I hope that it was good for you guys. And make sure to call in your questions, and I will see you tomorrow.